What is happening, everybody? Happy Tuesday night. It is 9:30. We are in another session of Johnny Gaz Live on a Tuesday night. Thank you for coming back. I appreciate you so much. I'm so excited to talk Lions football with you. Man, I appreciate it so much. What a fantastic start to the week it's been. I hope you guys are having a fantastic Tuesday evening, wherever you are tuning in from. I'm coming to you live from my basement here in Glens Falls, New York. Minutes down the road from East Field, where the Detroit Tigers farm team decades ago used to play their Double-A ball. Glens Falls, home of the Adirondack Red Wings years and years ago. But thank you guys so much for returning. We're going to be talking Lions football tonight, of course. We're going to be hitting on the Week 5 victory in Cincinnati. All the highs and lows from that one. We'll touch on all of it. It's going to be a fun night. Hit me up in the chat. Say hello. Let me know who your Week 5 MVP was. Let's kick it off right there. Lions and Bengals in Week 5. But more important than anything else, how are you guys doing? How is life going for you? I'd love to hear from you in the chat. Hit me up early and often. I'll have so many questions for you today as we dive into Lions, Bengals. We got Lions, Chiefs coming up. We got some injuries to discuss. A lot of things happening in Lionstown. Our 4-1 Detroit Lions. Lions defeat Cincinnati 37-24. Like I said, moved to 4-1. So let me know how you're feeling in the chat about the Lions on top of the NFC at 4-1. I believe that they are the strength of the NFC right now, even more so than the Eagles. I really believe the Lions are playing better offensively than the Eagles are, and the defense is starting to come on. So let me know what you think of our Detroit Lions on top of the NFC at 4-1 as we stand here tonight. How about this for another number offensively? 194 points in 5 games. 194 points from this Lions offense. Their best start in franchise history. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to dive into that offense, and I'm going to tell you why I think they could be even better moving forward. And that's pretty incredible. 194 points, man. So, yeah, we're going to do a deep breakdown of Week 5. We're going to get into those injury updates. We got to talk about Terry and Arnold. We got to talk about those cornerbacks. I think we got an issue in the secondary, so we're going to hit on that today. Who was your standout, though, from Week 5? Hit me up in the chat. Let's start right there. We're going to dive into this Week 5 game. We'll talk about what's coming out of it. But let me know who in the chat was your Week 5 MVP. Let's bring in the chat. What do you say, guys? Let's get you in early. Let's see who we think was your Week 5 MVP. We got a vote for Barnes. What's up, Fleeting? We got a vote for Hutch from Mile Marker. Millicent's in the chat. She actually went to the game in Cincinnati. How you doing, Millicent? Honolulu Blue was everywhere. It looked like they took over yet again. I appreciate you being a part of that. What did you think? What was the experience like? Let us know, Millicent. I'm excited to hear from you. Adam McIntyre, what up, my guy? Trevor Arnold said, forget our injured. I want to hear about KC injuries and out for the season. Yeah, we're going to hit on it, buddy. We're going to preview the Week 6 matchup with Kansas City. I appreciate you getting involved. What up, Trevor? What up, Steve? So many mouths to feed and so many selfless players. Hutch was a wrecking ball. What up, George? How you doing, man? George Jackson in the house. How you doing, my brother? Yes, we're going to talk. Let's kick this off. Lions, Bengals, 37-24. The offense, dynamic. Again, scoring points, 37 points on the road against an AFC opponent with a decent pass rush, not bad. But I think the offense still stalled out several times. Actually punted the ball 5 times in that matchup. Still ended up scoring 37 points. So this Lions offense just about hitting on all cylinders, but I think there's still another gear that they can hit. And that's what's incredible about this. What up, Attila? How you doing, man? Hello. Lions were in the red zone 6 times in this game. They were 5 for 6 That's efficient. That's solid. That's what winning teams do. That's how you score 37 points in a game where you still end up punting 5 times. Average 6 yards per play on the day. But I thought there was a slight drop in pace from previous weeks. I really thought they stalled out a couple times. I think the offensive line minus Taylor Decker giving up 4 sacks on the day. You could see the difference in the play. And of course, a guy like Trey Hendrickson and that pass rush on the other side is formidable. So you saw them get to Jared Goff. And then when they were able to do that, the offense stalled. So you see that there's still room for growth there. In my opinion, Giovanni Manu, serviceable earlier in the game. I think he had a few times where he was clearly beat multiple times for sacks. So there's clearly room for growth there. And you could see the absence of Taylor Decker really working against the Lions. Davey says the punter, Jack Fox. Dude, I agree with you, man. I mean, he flipped the field over and over and over again. So you can't discount Jack Fox and the special teams. I thought they were very good against Cincinnati. And that's why this Detroit Lions team is so scary, because they're playing complementary football. Even when their offense, although good, isn't fantastic, the defense picks up the slack with creating turnovers, flipping the field when they need to. And then the special teams does their thing. George says, I think they're controlling the game offensively and not showing everything. George, I think I get a sense of that as well, man. And in a way, I think the way that they use David Montgomery in that game kind of proves that point. You know, they allow him to throw a pass and get in the end zone on the ground. And don't get me wrong, it's not that those things may not happen anyways, but that was a return to Cincinnati. It's almost like the offense and John Morton were trying to get him those special moments. So in that sense, they might be holding back, or they might be manipulating their offense to a certain extent, knowing that they're going to win a football game. So I do believe there's another gear there, George. I think there's something else left. Steve says, I think they rolled the first half and coasted in the second half. Seemed like 2 different games. I kind of agree with you. I felt like there was a lull in the third quarter to fourth quarter flip over. And obviously, Cincinnati scored 21 points in that fourth quarter, aided by Jamar Chase and his heroics, because it certainly didn't seem like it was the Bengals quarterback doing anything. I mean, Jake Browning was just awful, especially in that first half. 3 turnovers, 3 interceptions in general. I mean, so the Lions defense opportunistic and was able to pick up the offense in this matchup. Millicent says, what was very telling about the dominant presence of Lions fans was when I closed my eyes for part of a drive and couldn't tell which fan base was reacting to what. It was bonkers. That's a serious takeover, Millicent. I love hearing that. I love how much Lions fans travel. It seems like in any away stadium, there's always some sort of Honolulu blue peppered in. But in that case, Millicent, you could see it, you could feel it even from the broadcast. So that must have been really cool to be a part of it. That's cool. Jared Goff, 19 of 23, 258 yards, 3 touchdowns. Was sacked 4 times, 153 quarterback rating. So truly efficient. Fantastic numbers. Again, I think the offensive line left a little bit to be desired, and we know if the offensive line dips, usually the play of Jared Goff dips, but he didn't make any big mistakes. And his efficiency can lead the day with this offense, and he was good. And there's now talks again about him entering this MVP race. So let me know in the chat, do you think at this point Jared Goff has earned the right to be considered in the MVP candidacy? I mean, does he have a legitimate shot at an MVP? If the Lions continue to win and he continues this efficient pace, can Jared Goff win the MVP this season? Let me know in the chat. That's a big one. My old Bengals did get Joe Flacco. Trade today between the Bengals and the Browns. Kind of a wild one, to be honest with you, but it was clear if you watch, and I'm sure everybody in the chat here watched the game, Lions and Bengals, that Jake Browning isn't the answer for the Bengals. So they went ahead and traded for veteran quarterback Joe Flacco, who the Lions faced in the previous week against the Browns, and I thought didn't look good at all. But the Cincinnati Bengals turned to their division rivals for a much-needed solution at quarterback. That's according to ESPN, acquiring Joe Flacco in a trade with the Cleveland Browns. Cincinnati also received a 2026 6th-round draft pick, while Cleveland landed a 5th-round pick in the trade announced today, Tuesday. So some moves happening there. It's an interesting move. Does that make the Bengals a contender now? I don't think so. I don't think that flips them much, but they certainly weren't getting anything from Jake Browning. So I understand the move. I just don't think it makes an ultimate difference. Millicent says, not to make excuses, but it was so hot on the visitor's side of the field. Lions sideline was a full-on sun the entire game, meaning the Bengals sideline was completely shaded. Yeah, that's a bummer. I haven't went to many outdoor Lions games. Most of mine have been indoors, the ones that I have attended. So I haven't say that I could experience that, but certainly during Tigers games that I've been to in the heat of July and August, man, it can get brutal in that sun. Honolulu Blue Flu, it's a thing, my dude. It's a thing. I mean, the Ravens experience, and they're hitting it hard right now. Davey says 16 MVP, so I'm guessing you're okay. You're saying Goff can win an MVP. So let me know, guys, in the chat. There's some talks now about Jared Goff being considered in the MVP race. Can he continue this pace? Can the Lions offense continue this pace? And can Jared Goff actually win NFL MVP? How about Sam Laporta, the tight end, huh? Good performance. He's really been the security blanket for Jared Goff in this offense so far this season. He had 5 catches, 92 yards, had the touchdown flipping score to kick this game off. Shows his athleticism. All in one play, really. That little, I don't even know if it's a screen pass, but he, sets up the block, has to roll off to the flat. So the ability to get off your block, to know you're going to get the ball, then to break a tackle, and then make that jump into the end zone. I mean, that's Sam Laporta, man. And that's such a key asset for this offense, to have the tight end playing at full steam, him being fully healthy, which I don't think he was last year. So that is such a benefit. Steve says they should have went after Russell Wilson with those weapons. Bengals could stay afloat. I don't hate that idea. And certainly the Giants are in full sale mode. So that, that would work. That could have been a better move for them. I like that, Steve. Wilson says, was happy to see Laporta got the game ball in the locker room. I think he deserves it. He's kind of sparked things. He's been there when the Lions need a key, first down. And to kick the game off that way, I think just kind of established the Lions' control, which I thought they held throughout the game. So that was great. Darcy, how you doing? Big show tomorrow with John Charles Macaron from SI.com. Yes, come back and see me, guys, tomorrow. We're going to be on with Johnny Mac of SI.com. I'll have some posts up tomorrow morning. Hopefully you guys will check those out and come and see us tomorrow between 7:30 and 7:45. We will be live. Should be a lot of fun. I appreciate you setting that up, Darcy. Darcy and the crew. How about Giovanni Manu? We talked about the Lions' offensive line. Overall, I thought they played okay. Not great. Gave up 4 sacks. The rushing attack, good at times. And you sort of expect that. You don't just replace Pro Bowl veteran, emotional leader Taylor Decker on the offensive line with Giovanni Manu and just expect things to continue to roll. Manu has to play more and more in these big situations and get more time for this to really gel. But he showed his wear, and that affected the pass protection. I think it affected the run game. I think it creates a situation where guys like Penei Sewell and Tate Ratledge and Mahogany have to really hold up their end for everything else to work. So you got to give a guy like Penei Sewell a lot of credit. He was clean all day on his side. But again, I think there's some run blocking inconsistencies, and when your pass protection gives up 4 sacks, it can create a problem. Luckily enough, Jared Goff was efficient. There were no turnovers, interceptions, excuse me. He did fumble the football. And that, again, predicated on the offensive line. That's something they're going to have to shore up. And does the Taylor Decker absence worry you? Because if that goes longer than expected, if Giovanni Manu is forced to play multiple weeks, could that hinder this Lions offense down the road against better teams? And we're going to talk about, I guess there's an argument to be made if they're a better team, but I think they're playing a more quality opponent in week 6 and beyond. So that's going to have to be there. Steve, I see that, man. Tigers, not their night. I think the delay hurt them a lot today. I mean, their pitching is so fickle when you're not talking Scooble, so it just, I think that hurt them. So unfortunately, yeah, Lions may fall tonight. Or the Tigers may fall tonight. But hopefully they can get back at it tomorrow. Belinda says, plenty of football left. Injuries happen. I agree. I mean, it's the next man up. That's this Lions mentality. We're going to talk about those injuries here in a moment. I agree, Millicent. I mean, and again, it's going to be time with Manu. You can't just expect it. Preseason, the training camp, I mean, that's all good. And he showed signs of progress. But true game action when it matters is what's going to give him, I think, what he needs to progress. So there are a lot of expectations. I mean, when you step in for Taylor Decker, you're asked to do a lot. So I think it's just time with him. How about this for a standout number? 14-0. Okay, that's the stat. 14-0. Detroit is 14-0 all time when both Gibbs and Montgomery score TDs in the same game. They talked about them surpassing Emmitt Smith and Johnson, the tight end, wherever the guy on the microphone was for color that night for the Cowboys. I apologize. Moose Johnston. They talked about them tying them for the NFL record with combined touchdowns. Well, the Lions 14-0 when they both score TDs. So when they can get the running game going, when they can get both of those running backs involved, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, it's almost as if the offense is unstoppable. I agree, Millicent. We'll call this man as week 1. And let's see, again, what happens with Decker. I think they prefer to have him in the lineup, but if not, he's going to have another solid test against the Chiefs' defensive front. Let's talk again about Jameson Williams. Last week on Johnny Gaz Live, we talked about him still needing to break out this season. And I think now that another week has passed and he didn't put up huge numbers, statistically, he's still in the same boat we talked about. He had 1 catch, limited targets. But truthfully, that's not his ultimate effectiveness in the offense. We've now seen several examples of bracketed coverage, safeties having to float to his side, and you're seeing the Lions' offensive formations change just a little bit compared to last season. Almost primarily J-Mo and Amon-Ra St. Brown on the same side of the field because they know the safety has to go deep, and it allows Amon-Ra to work the middle of the field, and that's why he's been so effective, the Sun God, this year, because J-Mo is still that threat. And that's his real effectiveness right now. So as much as the stats aren't there, he's still receiving a lot of praise from his teammates, from his head coach, because of that and because of his blocking, his willingness to be a team player. He's real asset down the field blocking. He's willing and he's going to get it. You could see it. And like Steve says, he's so important because he takes the lid off the defense. He opens up the middle of the field. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, guys like that can get things done. Jahmyr Gibbs can get out into traffic and make things happen as well because J-Mo stretches that field. And you can tell defensive schemes are worried about him. You cannot leave him one-on-one with the cornerback. So that impact is there in a lot of visible ways, and I think it's ultimately helping this offense. So I think last week's take may have been a little premature on my behalf, and I'll always sit here and take ownership of a bad take if I have one. Now, I think that still I'd love to see more from him. And they try to reverse with him early in the game. It really didn't work. They didn't seem to go back to that. But hopefully they'll continue to pepper that in, and Jameson Williams' stat line will increase. But truthfully, that's not the only thing to look at when we talk about Jameson Williams. So as far as a stock report coming out of this week, I think Jared Goff is really playing efficient football. Outside of that fumble, again, not turning the ball over, seems to be making the smart throw. And it's a situation where now he's being talked of in that MVP light. And when you're in that category, things are going well. So I would tell you, I think there's still room there. The offense in general still was stalled out 5 or 6 times in that game. So there's still room to grow. And that's really the scary part. Those dual backs are hard to deal with. And if those two guys remain healthy, I think they're always a threat. So this offense should continue humming if their offensive line can stay together, stay relatively healthy. We also have to think about the Khalif Raymond injury, right? He went out, took a nasty head-on hit in that kick return, or was it a punt return? It didn't look good. I'll tell you what, when he initially took that hit and went down, that was scary because his head was down. And I think now what the team has said is it's not a long-term deal. It's more of a concussion protocol situation. But that now puts the Lions in a situation in the wide receiver side of things where you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, and now hopefully Isaac Tesla works himself into the mix a little bit more. We saw him get a touchdown against the Bengals. Part of what really capped this game. And he's going to be needed, I think, now if there is any extended absence from a guy like Khalif Raymond. Not saying that they necessarily play the same role. Isaac Tesla is not going to return punts. He's not necessarily going to be a guy that's going to run end rounds or you're going to run screen passes to, but he's a threat, especially in the red zone. And prayers for Leaf because that was nasty, Steve. I think they gotta get him back. He's underrated as far as his usage on this team. They love Khalif Raymond. Let's talk about that defense. Spent a lot of time on the offense as far as week 5 recap with the Bengals. Again, Lions victory 37-24. They go to 4-1. But the defense was solid, was good, opportunistic, created turnovers. And that's been a theme this year for this defense. They are clearly out to get the football, and it's working. Aiden Hutchinson, just a pressure machine. Sacks in 4 consecutive games. So not only a candidate for comeback player of the year, of course, but is working himself into defensive player of the year discussion. And he had stats taken away multiple times over in Cincinnati because of penalties throughout the other side of the defense. Darian Arnold was penalized. Brian Branch was penalized in situations where Hutch had a safety, had a sack, and they were taken away. Andy says, I can picture Tesla getting 2 TDs on like 3 catches for his coming out party on national TV. Hey, man, he's still kind of like percolating, right? And you can kind of see it, like it will happen. I mean, this touchdown catch in Cincinnati is huge, but I think there's still a lot more usage to be had. So let's see if the relief injury creates a situation where he gets more targets. And you're right, Steve, he's balling out on special teams. Great gunner, is doing it all. And that's why he's earning targets. Fleeting says, I don't know. Tesla has a lot to learn on assignment and routes. I'll have to take another look at a few things, Fleeting. I haven't heard necessarily a lot of downplay to that so far, but maybe that speaks to why he's not getting a ton of targets just yet. Let's see what happens. Branch, Hutch, beast. Of course, Millicent. I thought Alex Anzalone was the beast in this game. The whole linebacking crew in general was fantastic against Cincinnati. Anzalone was really good in coverage. He still has speed. He can still get sideline to sideline. He's an asset for this team. As much as Jack Campbell, I think, has taken over the leader of the defense, let's say, I still think Alex Anzalone is such a key piece to that group. Veteran leadership. He's seen it all. He's been involved in everything. But him along with Jack Campbell, who's just a tackling machine, multiple weeks with double-digit tackles. Derek Barnes gets the sack, the safety to seal it. On top of him just being a beast and everywhere as well. So those 3 guys, Anzalone, Campbell, and Barnes, remaining healthy is key to this defense continuing its success. And the way they're going to be able to overcome cornerback injuries as part of that is the play of their linebackers, the play of their front. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. Kirby Joseph, again, putting his hands on a football. This guy has a knack for intercepting footballs. It's incredible. Another one against Cincinnati. And although we saw a big bust in coverage, which led to a long touchdown for Jamar Chase, I did think Amik Robertson and Rock Ya-Sin were relatively good in this game and will be part of that long-term plan. Steve says Reader was even noticeable. And I think the interior of that defensive line has been a huge surprise for the Lions. Tyleek, although that's what you drafted him for, I think, you almost expect some growing pains, but their rush defense has been fantastic. They're averaging under 100 yards given up per game. So, and that's continued from last season into this season, even without a guy like Aleem McNeil, limited production. You don't have guys like Mekhi Wingo, obviously no Levi Onwuzurike. I mean, you were missing pieces, but it's been great to see him, Tyleek Williams, and Reader kind of step into that. It's been great. Part of that big defensive effort. So Hutch, Anzalone, Barnes, Campbell, Joseph. I mean, you can keep going. I mean, guys that stock up from the Week 5 victory in Cincinnati. But we got to hit on the injuries. I mean, that's always a scary thing. Coming out of last season, we know how bad that got defensively. So now injuries are starting to rack up in the cornerback room. Last week, we knew we lost DJ Reed with the hamstring. That's short-term IR. At least another 3 weeks, and I bet even more for him. And Arnold had the shoulder injury, which took him out of last week's game, and you thought he may miss Week 5 against Cincinnati. Well, he ended up playing and hurt it again. He was carted off. Terry Arnold was carted off yet again in Week 5 in Cincinnati. And the first word was that this was a long injury. It will be a long-term season ender. We'll come out today. Terry Arnold gets a second opinion, and it appears not as long-term as they thought. So although I do expect him to be out multiple weeks, it may not be season-ending. So we'll keep our ears to the ground. I'll keep you posted through Johnny Gaz Sports and the shorts upcoming here in the next couple of days as far as his status. But in the short term, you're going to be without both your starting cornerbacks. And in essence, it creates a hole and certainly depth concerns in the secondary. So it puts guys like Amik Robertson, Rock Ya-Sin, Avonte Maddox. They brought in Trey Flowers, Nick Whiteside last week. And that's really who you have in your cornerback room. Now, luckily enough, the Lions have two extremely solid safeties in Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph, one an All-Pro, one a Pro Bowler, that they can lean on. And they can use in a couple different ways. But truthfully, the depth at cornerback is the real concern. So let me know in the chat, with Arnold gone likely, at least for a couple weeks, and I expect more, who gets your trust? Who is the number one cornerback for the Lions? Is that Amik Robertson? Is it Rock Ya-Sin? Does Brian Branch play more cornerback now? Who is your CB1 for the Lions as we stand right now? Let me know in the chat. And I put out a short just yesterday as part of the Why series, which I do at least one every week, sort of answering those big questions coming out of Lions games. This week was, can the Lions recover, why they will recover, or ultimately why they will survive these cornerback injuries was my argument. And part of that was the safeties and how they can use them. I think although they're a huge man-on-man coverage scheme defense, with Aaron Glenn then passing it off to Kelvin Shepard, that sort of continued. I think they're going to have to get away from that a little bit. Use the current talent they have. They may have to rely on some more zone shells, bracket coverage, reduce the amount of isolation that the cornerbacks have on big-time wide receivers, where they may have trusted DJ Reed and even Terry and Arnold in certain situations. Although I know they trust the guys they have, they know where they lack athletically, so they're going to have to help there. They're going to have to mask coverages with pre-snap motion, kind of try to make the quarterback think, or have to decide very quickly so that they don't have to cover for long periods of time. The communication has to be huge. Within the defense, the communication has to be there. They have to know where they're supposed to be. So those little details now mean even more. Steve says, I think we're deeper than last year on purpose. Like Coach said, keeping this train rolling. Expect next man up with no drop-off. I hope that's the case, Steve. I do. Danny says Robertson. I agree. I think Amik Robertson is your number one cornerback, just based on experience and the fact that he's been with this team. I do think they trust him. And again, I hate highlighting the blown coverage because that was so clear, but I think that's a simple mistake. That's an easy cleanup. I think it's something Amik can fix, and they'll probably approach the coverage of a superstar wide receiver like that a little differently moving forward now that they know they're without both corners. But I agree, Danny. Amik is probably number one, with Rock Ya-Sin as the opposite side, and Avonte Maddox and Brian Branch and some other cast of characters there. You saw Trey Flowers get in the game, so you might see him a little bit worked in there more. And that's how they recover from this. Oh, Steve, I hear you, man. No, Jack Campbell was fantastic. 11 tackles, I think it was on the day. Multiple games in a row now with double-digit tackles, and he's controlling the field. He is such a huge presence at 6'5", and I think he's starting to make more of a name for himself each game. And I agree, Fleeting, there is a drop-off, but I think they can work this out. I do. I think the way that they'll cover differently against the Chiefs, you're going to see a few different things. They'll mix some things in. I think they'll play more zone versus man coverage, at least a better mix. And ultimately, is this a major storyline heading into week 6 against Kansas City? You know, because that's ultimately what we have to focus on is what does this mean long-term for the Lions? I really believe both of these cornerbacks are out for at least several weeks. We know DJ Reed is short-term IR, so that's another 3 weeks plus, and I think they wait till after the bye for him at least. And who knows if he's even ready at that point. Hamstrings are weird. And the shoulder, what was initially deemed season-ending, is now more short-term, and that's always a little hairy. So we'll have to wait and see on Terrion, but ultimately they're going to have to shuffle some things in the cornerback room. So my winners coming out of week 5 before we move on to week 6. I think Jared Goff has to be one of them. Derek Barnes, Sam Laporta, Aiden Hutchinson, and Alex Anzalone. Those are my biggest winners coming out of this week 5 matchup. My concerns are with Giovanni Manu. Not saying he was a loser necessarily in this game, but I think we just need to see more progression from him in the offensive line to gel if he's ultimately going to be in this lineup for Taylor Decker for some weeks. Graham Glasgow in the middle needs to hold up, less penalties. The cornerback room we just talked about. So those are my concerns coming out of this matchup with the Cincinnati Bengals. Steve says, not worried about any of Casey's wide receivers, lock but Pete Travis Swift and stop the run. I agree with you. Casey isn't the problem, win or lose or draw. It only matters to current standing, but not really the season end. We need to keep Tampa Bay in mind as the NFC opponents matter more. Yeah, Tampa Bay looks scary. I agree. Sack the Packs. What's up, man? It says more reps. Manu did look lost at times. At times. I agree, Steve. So those are my concerns. Obviously, the injuries, the offensive line, but we shall move forward. So next week, week 6, big game with the Kansas City Chiefs. An interesting one, an 8:20 kickoff on NBC, a night game, prime time. It's going to be a great matchup, at least a great spectacle. Lions going to Kansas City, to Arrowhead, where they had success. And ultimately, the Chiefs are going to come into this matchup off of a short week where they played Monday Night Football against the Jags and lost that football game 31-28. A weird football game if you watched it, to be honest with you. Patrick Mahomes, 318 yards passing, 29 of 41, 1 TD, 1 interception. Trevor Lawrence, 18 of 25, 1 TD, 1 interception, had the game-winning touchdown. And then, of course, what I thought was one of the highlight plays was the pick six. But it sets up a Week 6 matchup between the Lions and prime time, the Lions and Chiefs in prime time. Let's prepare ourselves for it. And this Chiefs team, I don't think is the same kind of Chiefs team that we've seen in years past. And it's hard to figure them out because I agree with you. I think there's a lack of offensive weapons. I don't know that outside of Patrick Mahomes' playmaking ability, if the passing attack scares me, the Lions' rush defense has been good. So I think the speed running backs that the Kansas City Chiefs have don't necessarily scare me as well. And I just think Detroit ultimately has a better roster. They have a better team. And so far this season, I think they've just been better than Kansas City. However, initially indicated was the Chiefs still favored by 1.5. You may see that shift now after the Monday Night Football matchup, so I'll keep you posted on the line. But ultimately, we have the Lions traveling to Arrowhead in Week 6. Who do you guys have in this game, and what will be the final score? Let me know in the chat. I agree, Sack. Chiefs look soft. There's just something missing. You know, it's hard to put your finger on it. I don't know if it's just time, age. There's a lot of things, and I just think the Lions are rolling offensively. I think the defense is starting to make plays and become opportunistic to the point where they only need to make a few stops during a game for the Lions to win. And Millicent puts a good point out there. She believes that the defense will be able to contain Mahomes. I mean, I'm not necessarily worried about Patrick Mahomes. I think they've shown that they can contain a quarterback. I think it's really more about stopping their run game. And then, of course, with the cornerback injuries, making sure that they're not beat deep situations. And I think they can do that. Darcy says 38-31 Lions. That'd be a nice high-scoring game. I struggle to see the Chiefs scoring 31 points on the Lions. I really do. I feel like the Chiefs are at this precipice point of like turning in a negative way. Where in seasons past, I would have told you they could turn it on at any time. I don't know if I get that same feeling on this Chiefs team. I think the Lions and the way that they approach these kind of matchups, prime time, not that Dan Campbell would look at this game differently if it was a 1 o'clock kickoff, but truthfully, I just think they come in firing on all cylinders and might overwhelm this matchup. Fleeting says they look good when they could do their air raid, but penalties kill them. Their own run game. Yeah. Uncharacteristic amount of penalties for an Andy Reid team. And I agree, Sack. Lions should be able to run the football. And if they can, in any matchup, if the Lions can run the football, usually everything else is there, and they're truly unstoppable offensively. Steve says, closer than I would like, 31-24, Lions quiet in Arrowhead. Well, or Lions quiet Arrowhead. Yeah, I like that. I see where you're going there. Millicent says 28-17 Lions. Yeah, it's in Kansas City. Yep. On the road. But yeah, I think they can go in there and overwhelm the situation. I don't think the Lions certainly are scared in any environment. Where the Lions truly have been susceptible, in my opinion, has been over the middle. These intermediate routes, typically by tight ends. If you think back to the Ravens game with Mark Andrews and the rookie with the Cleveland Browns, the tight end that they have, I mean, those are guys that have kind of been able to get at the Lions defense. So you do have to be on the lookout for Travis Kelce in this matchup. And when I do my game preview, when we talk about the potential X factors, I think he has the ability to put up big numbers in this game just based on how I think the Lions are susceptible. That certainly doesn't mean that Travis Kelce is back. I think he has slowed down tremendously. I think this year is a clear indication that he may be leaning towards retirement. But in this matchup against the Lions, I think he can be effective. So you got to be on the lookout for him. Worthy's vertical speed with the Lions secondary now struggling with injuries. You cannot get beat with that speed. So Worthy, I think you have to be on the lookout for as an X factor. Expecting a lot of motion, shifting formations. They have a lot of complexity in their patterns, and Andy Reid will mix things up. He understands who he's playing. Going against Kelvin Shepard, a first-time defensive coordinator, he's going to probably try to play some games to beat this Lions team. Rob says 16-31 Lions. Go Lions! The biggest concern I have being Holmes running around making plays. Mahomes running around making plays. Yeah, I think if they can't contain him, that's the biggest problem. And I think that would have been the same issue with Caleb Williams and the Bears, but they were able to reel him in. I think they did a fantastic job with Lamar Jackson, and this was pre-injury Lamar Jackson. So they have the ability to contain him. But if Mahomes works his magic, escapes the pocket, and makes plays with his arm because he's running around and scrambling, that will kill them, because that's where this secondary being injured plays a factor. If Mahomes creates more time and the secondary has to cover more, they're not going to be able to do that. And those one-on-one matchups will kill them. A guy like Worthy, Isaiah Pacheco against the linebacker or an underman cornerback will hurt them. So that's a huge point. Zach, that's a huge point. Miles says Casey's going to want it bad, may cause them slip-ups and penalties. I think you might be right. This is a must-win for them, right? I mean, coming off of the Monday night loss to the Jags, they're now 2-3. The Kansas City Chiefs are. So it creates a situation where Andy Reid and the Chiefs need a victory, and the Lions are up to task. Travis Kelce will be a bit run down after last night, according to Millicent. I think you're right. We talked about the Chiefs' offense. I think the defense with Chris Jones, he's still an interior disruptor. I think the Lions will have to be stout on their offensive line to ensure they don't allow Jared Goff to get pressured from the interior. That certainly has been the thing to create problems for this Lions offense in the past, and is the only thing that really makes Jared Goff a less efficient quarterback. So they'll have to be stout on the offensive line. The secondary for the Chiefs has been relatively good, only 5.6 yards allowed per pass attempt. This was before Monday night, though. But they're physical, they're disciplined, they're opportunistic. They have a good defense. The Lions offense is going to have to be there. I like it, Darcy. So, yeah, I think those key matchups will be Jared Goff against the KC secondary. Can the offensive line protect Jared Goff so he can make plays? He can distribute to the playmakers on offense. Talked about the running backs. I think Penei Sewell against Karlaftis on the other side of the football. We talked about Chris Jones. Again, the whole offensive line in general, but Penei Sewell just continuing his play. Aiden Hutchinson against the offensive line for Kansas City, which is susceptible. And Hutch is going to be key in maintaining and containing Patrick Mahomes. If he can get to him, disrupt Mahomes, I think that will certainly help the Lions defense. Laporta against the linebackers and the zone coverage of Kansas City. That's going to be huge again. And he's been such a security blanket for the Lions. So I see him playing a huge factor. And then again, the cornerback depth for the Lions. Can they cover the weapons for Kansas City? Can they cover long enough if Patrick Mahomes is able to escape the pocket? You're going to be asking a lot of some depth pieces in the Lions secondary. And to me, that might be one of the key matchups here. Yeah, they really have to avoid isolating their corners. They got to do what they can, either helping with man coverage with a deep safety, moving into a zone coverage of some kind, rotating their safeties into the slot, pre-snap disguises. I mean, all that's going to be so huge. This is Super Bowl champions. Darcy, I agree with you. Sack the Pack says Goff is on an MVP run. I think you're right. And That was one of the questions early on. Do we really think Jared Goff can win an MVP? I think he can. He absolutely can. He's so efficient. When the offensive line play is there, he is so efficient. Lions are 4-1 against the spread. Chiefs 2-3 against the spread at home. Overs have been common in Detroit games. So we asked for your predictions for Week 6. Lions heading to Arrowhead to face the Kansas City Chiefs. We've seen a few scores in there. I will give my full prediction and game pick in my game preview, which comes out always on Fridays. Again, the Lions playing Sunday Night Football on NBC, 8:20 kickoff against Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, all of the circus that is Arrowhead. It's going to be a great show. It's going to be a great game. And I think it's going to be a close matchup. I do. I think the Lions come out on top. I'll give my, again, final score prediction on Friday, but I think the Lions have a leg up in this game. I think they're firing just about on all cylinders with still a little room to grow, and that's kind of where you want to be at this time of the year. I mean, you really want to be firing on all cylinders Week 17 as you get into the playoffs, but right now I think we're in a comfortable spot. Danny Klute says, yes, Goff is an MVP. Steve says, Brock Wright has even been a pleasant surprise. Travis Hunter for MVP, says Darcy. He showed some things. So we'll start to wind some things down in this session of Johnny Gaz Live. Again, hit me up in chat if you're hanging out, just watching the stream. I've had plenty of people watching today. I appreciate you guys so much for getting involved. All you guys in the chat. It's so much fun talking Lions football with you. Detroit's offense is firing on every cylinder, almost every cylinder possible. They're on an historic pace. Like we said, 194 points through 5 games. That's a franchise record. And if they stay healthy, just like Sack said, the sky is the limit. Gibbs and Montgomery, Sonic and Knuckles, this duo continuing to show why they're the best duo in the NFL and how dangerous they are, both scoring TDs against Cincinnati. That stat where the Lions are 14-0 when they both score touchdowns is truly incredible. So getting them involved early and often is truly the key. Jameson Williams and his effect on this offense. Can he get more involved statistically? Are they going to get him more footballs? Get him more involved in the rushing attack, maybe more end arounds. Find more ways to use his speed. Now, it is coming in handy for formations and the way they're able to get the ball to other weapons, but I'd love to see more targets continue to Jameson Williams. And then defensively, the cornerbacks, the injuries there. Is it a crisis? Is it next man up with no drop-off, as we talked about? How much does the scheme change because of that? And can the Lions recover? Those are the big questions as we head into Week 6 with Kansas City. Mile Marker, thank you so much. Please sub and like. If you haven't already, slap the like button. It is honestly the best free way to help out any of my channels, these lives. Putting a comment, as you guys already have, is so huge. If you haven't already subscribed to either the YouTube channel or the Facebook page, it is completely free. I have membership options on both sides, and I do a ton of membership content, highlights, reactions, play-by-play highlights, the ladder series. But ultimately, if you search for @Johnny Gaz Sports on any one of your social medias, you will find fun, concise, and reliable Detroit Lions content at any time. And it's because of you guys, because I love talking Lions football with you so much. Fire away with those questions, guys. We're going to get to the end of this live, but I would love to go back and forth with you. Sack says, what does Kansas City's offensive line look like? Is Hutchinson going to have a day? Well, I think he's going to have an opportunity. I really believe he's going to have an opportunity. Ultimately, Jawan Taylor is the right tackle for Kansas City, and what he is most famous for is the offensive, the false start penalties, getting off the line too early in his right tackle position. You know, he kind of jets back early last year. That was such a big deal towards the early part of the season. He is susceptible. And so if Hutchinson goes directly up against Jawan Taylor, the other tackle is Josh Simmons. They have a great center in Creed Humphrey. Their guards are pretty good. Trey Smith is fantastic. But I think they are susceptible. I really believe so. I mean, Mahomes can make a lot of things happen with his legs that make that offensive line look better than it might be overall, but Hutch will have plenty of opportunities. Milton says there's just so much room for growth in this team. So incredible to think about. It really is. I mean, the fact they scored 37 points against Cincinnati, punted 5 times, fumbled the ball back to them on a possession where they could have scored again. I mean, they left. They left 21 points on the board easy, you know. So it is kind of incredible to think about. Rob says we did last year, next man up football. That's what it kind of has to be. I mean, they went and signed Trey Flowers, but they didn't make some big splash move, at least as of today. And I don't expect that to be the case. They're going to go in with who they have. And we're leaning there, but I'm going to ask the question anyways. This will be my last question for you guys in chat. Do you still believe with the injury situation, things starting to pile up there, offensive line with Taylor Decker, those things, are the Lions still legit Super Bowl contenders? I think I know what the answer is going to be, but let me know in the chat. I really believe they're legit Super Bowl contenders. I honestly do. I thought that going into the season, and barring another major disaster injury, I think they can survive these cornerback depth issues and make this happen. But the Lions have some tough games coming up. You know, I mean, not only just the Chiefs game in week 6, but like was mentioned here a little bit. I think Fleeting had brought it up. Bucks, they got to bring Tampa Bay into town the week after. And then after that, you got the Vikings, then Commanders, then the Eagles, and then you get a little reprieve after that. But still, they have a string of 4 games coming up. You could argue the Vikings game maybe is part of that, but following up after the Eagles, I mean, they got a string of tough games here. So they got to stay healthy, stay efficient, and they can get this done. John, what's up, buddy? Decker is day-to-day. So at least from what I've heard so far, I think the problem is they were giving him veteran rest each week, and every week he was able to kind of recover. And this last week, he wasn't able to recover as fast as he did before. So I think their thought was, we want to give him the extra week, knowing they got to go to Kansas City. I think they'd rather have him there. My thought is he's playing in Kansas City. But I'll keep you guys posted, and we'll update that this week for sure. Everybody agrees. Yes, for sure. Yes, we are absolutely Lions still Super Bowl contenders. Yes, says Sack. He also says, I like the history against the Bucks, though I think we're a better team this year than we won't play them last year. Well, I think we are, but Lions are a better team this year. I might argue the Bucks could be a better team than they were last year. They have some offensive weapons that scare me. Baker Mayfield is always a wild card in any game, positive or negative, mostly positive for him. It's funny. I put out a short a long time ago. We were talking in one of these lives about one of the local radio stations had offered up the question, Jared Goff for Baker Mayfield, and would you take it? And one of the guys said, absolutely, I would take it. Well, I had brought that up in a short, and for some reason that short is just blown up on Facebook. But you know how people are. They only see the thumbnail and assume that I'm the guy sitting back there going, trade Jared Goff for Baker Mayfield right now, which is not the point of that short whatsoever, and I would not do that. But I am just getting destroyed because everyone thinks I'm the worst Lions fan in the world because I would just give up Jared Goff for Baker Mayfield. I would not do that. I love Jared Goff. He's the guy, and he's going to be the guy to take the Lions to the promised land. That was a local radio station take that I was presenting to the world. But my point is, Baker Mayfield has magic within him. He's beaten the Lions before. Actually, the Lions have kind of had the Bucs number in the playoff win, and then the following year, the regular season matchups. But Baker's come into Detroit and won, and he can do that again. So that's a tough matchup. Vikings, Commanders, Eagles, tough weeks ahead. So again, coming up, we got tomorrow, we're going to be live with John Macaroon of SI.com. We'll be joining him in his show. I will post some things tomorrow trying to direct you to that location. So definitely come and check us out between 7:30 and 7:45. If you haven't already, hit the like button on this live video. Subscribe, hit the notify bell so you don't miss any future videos. We'll have our game preview coming up this Friday. Lions heading to Arrowhead to face the Chiefs in week 6. I'll let you know what my final score prediction will be. Key matchups, X factors, headlines. We'll update you on all the injuries. Everything that you need to know ahead of that Chiefs game, I will have for you Friday this week. More than all of that, and I say it all the time and I mean it, take care of yourself, your mental health. It is so important. I want to make sure you guys come back and see me on future videos and say hello, but take care of yourself. I really mean that. I appreciate you guys so much for getting involved in the chat. We shout you guys out. Sack the Pack, Danny Clute, Rob Jackson, Millicent, Mile Marker, Darcy, Steve Tracy, Fleeting EXP. Danny Clute again was in the chat. Millicent was all over the chat today. I appreciate you guys so much for hanging around. Honestly, I do. Ronan, how you doing, my man? Big Ronan, good to see you in here, bud. I appreciate you guys. I really do. It means a lot. This is why I do it, to be able to talk Lions football with like-minded fans, positive fans, and we can talk the real. I'll never sugarcoat it. I'll never blow smoke at you. I really try not to post things that are clickbait. I'm not saying I don't have a thumbnail title here and there that might drag somebody in, but I really don't present false information. I don't take and run with articles. I don't use other third-party information and run with it on my own. I really do as much research as I can and give you true, honest Lions talk. And that's what I'm here for. And I appreciate you guys being involved. So I'm going to cut it there. We're just over an hour. This has been Johnny Gaz Live for Tuesday, October, is it 7th? Holy moly, we're flying through the month of October. Come back and see me next week for another version of this live. We'll be reviewing the Kansas City Chiefs game. We'll preview the next upcoming matchup with Tampa Bay and all of the ins and outs for Detroit Lions news, notes, and headlines. Thank you guys so much again. Enjoy the rest of your evening.